Hi, looks like you've actually clicked on the video. Nice. Well, you know what this video is going to be about, because you already read the title, so let's not waste our time with pointless introductions. In this video you're going to learn everything about the new Azur Lane game mode, the project identity. First of all, how can you access this game mode? You'll have to click on the HQ button in the main menu, witness the new port interface, which can be either terrible or one of the best changes to the game's UI since its initial release, depending on how you feel about it, and click the project identity button in the bottom right corner of the set menu. After this, a series of story cutscenes will be played. Well, you can skip them if you want to, but what's the point of playing this game mode if not for the story of the cutest waifu in all of Azur Lane? After finishing reading and giving your scan a new fancy name, you'll be thrown into the game mode itself. But before we continue, how about figuring out what you're signing up for and what this game mode is about, while the cutscenes play at the background. Remember that cold, emotionless and excessively talkative AI assistant girl from the Operation Siren, named TB, right? She won't be like that anymore, as we're about to turn her into the best cutie pie you can ever imagine. In a nutshell, this is a typical daddy simulator. A player would have to take care of TB and grow her from the age of roughly 5 years to adulthood. Over a span of 48 in-game weeks, you will make various schedules for her, deciding what subjects she will be learning and what activity will participate in. Every Sunday you will make a new schedule for the upcoming week and also take TB for a walk for some special activities. Depending on your choices, her skills, personality and even appearance will change over time. For example, if you want to grow her into an athlete, you'll need to have as many PE classes as possible, while reading and calligraphy can be thrown away almost completely. In the meantime, to become a talented actress, TB will have to get used to perform on the stage. Oh, and you won't be able to revert those changes if you mess up, so be a good parent for her, would ya? Okay, that sounds cool, but what will I get as a reward if I were to overcome those sufferings? Well, for now, only the new secretary, which can be put in a special slot in the corresponding menu. At first, only the normal TB with her classical non-emotionless quotes can be used. If you click on her, a variety of skins will pop up. We'll talk on how to get them later, but for now you should know that all of them are free. You can pick whichever skin you like, swap it for another one, after you become bored use the third one, and all of that without having to spend even a single one of your gems. However, they lack any personality-specific quotes, which is a bummer. Nonetheless, after you complete the whole TB storyline and get one of the possible endings, you will unlock a new personality for your secretary, regarding her character that she's gotten in the Tamagochi. Kind, peppy, and quiet, respectively. As you can see, they also have an additional skin, but only one at the moment. Now those skins do change not only their appearance, making TB look a lot more mature, but also her lines in the main menu. For example, if normal TB sounds like this,
システムセルフチェック中、未知のエラーを検出しました。原因不明です。
Kind will sound like this.
指揮官、甘いものはいかがですか？最近は TB からいっぱい食べさせられて幸せ太りが心配？
And Peppy will say something like this.
何をしているかって？ふふん、未来の旅行計画を立てているんですよ。どう？気遣いができてるよね。優しいよね。今すごく感動してるよね。
There is a ton of new voice lines for each personality, making around 100 unique lines, all voiced. Although, there is no special touch line. It's your daughter after all, you horny pester puffer. And that's it. If you're not interested in everything above, just skip this new game mode. With that out of the way, time to finally talk about the gameplay aspect of the set project identity. After deciding how TB will call you, you'll get into the game. It will teach you some basic mechanics of the game mode regarding most of the functionality of the project identity, so follow the in-game guide closely. As was mentioned earlier, TB will grow over a span of 48 in-game weeks, or 1 in-game year. This number should not frighten you, as, if you skip all of the optional cutscenes, a week can be finished in less than 2 minutes. When I first played this game mode, I obviously read every piece of dialogue that TB has, and she has a lot of them, which in the end took me about 8 hours of non-stop gameplay to get an actual ending. If you're skipping all of the story segments, which you well should do at certain parts of the game if it's not your first playthrough, the game will take about 2 hours to complete, which is a bearable amount of time. Now, briefly about the core mechanics. The first thing that you should do is to set up your goal that will determine the main stats that your TB should be getting during a conditional stage of a growing process. After selecting any path and clicking confirm, you can check which stat is the primary objective of the set path without picking it right away. It will be very handy later on. At the very first stage this doesn't really matter that much, so you can choose whatever you like. For example, I always prefer to go for the latter one, because it looks good. However, if you already have a picture of what TB you would want to have in your mind, better start forming her personality from this point. Now, pay your attention to the table at the left part of the screen, which contains every bit of information about TB's current stats. There are only 3 types of stats. Let's call them main, specialization specific, and personality specific to navigate through them easier. TB will be getting basic stats during each of her stages, and you will need a lot of them, as they are directly tied to the endings. They are the easiest type of stats to obtain, so do not worry about them too much. And just remember that your first stat should stay around 3000 points, closer to the end of the game, with the second having around 1600 points. We'll talk about how to determine your main stats a bit later. Specialization-specific stats will roughly determine the job that TB will get as one of her possible endings. They can be limitedly farmed starting from the second stage. Finally, the personality-specific stats will determine TB's personality, the set of endings that she can get with this personality, and her appearance. They can be farmed from stage 2 to stage 3. After that, let's check the task board. There are 2 separate sets of missions available for you. Repeatable yellow ones, which give you a certain but almost always a very small amount of each stat after you complete an objective, like go to the amusement park once or plan TB activities 2 times. When you complete enough of these quests, closer to the end of the stage, you will get a noticeable bonus, from 20 to 40 to each of her stats. So do not sleep on those missions, as they are pretty easy to complete, even if most of the times they do not match the path that you have chosen. The stats gained for each separate quest completed will also consistently increase with every new stage, adding up around 300 points to each of her main stats completely for free. The second tasks are the blue main storyline. It is highly suggested that you complete those missions before advancing to the next stage, as they give you an incredible boost to your stats, some money that will be useful later on, and mood boost for TB to study even harder. But do keep in mind, you do not need to complete each one of them, and you will most likely not have time to do so. Just clear the required number of tasks for your stage, 5, 8, 11, etc. Now for the stats that TB can have. To earn them, go to the weekly schedule and fill those 6 days with some activities for TB to work with. You can always skip the animations if you are tired of seeing them, and only these activities during which something interesting happened will be shown to you. Lastly, after you advance to the second stage, you will unlock an ability to go outside to do some activities with TB. The activities can be mostly divided into 4 groups: morale restoring, money restoring, stats improving, and photos collecting. There is nothing too complicated in this gameplay, and you will get used to it. I'm not going to go into the details about how to play this game mode. Rather, I want you to avoid the common mistakes that almost everyone made during their first playthrough. If you want a separate video that tells you how to play this game mode step by step, let me know in the comments down below, but there is really nothing too difficult for you to understand. Now let's get to the point. If we're going to talk about the common mistakes, we should discuss one thing first. This is not a Tamagochi, as was described earlier. This is a completely unforgiving where you must farm for your character's stats and do it in the right way in order to progress. The game tricks you into thinking that you are raising a daughter, being a good father you are. But in the end, you're almost guaranteed to get the worst or second to worst ending, because no matter how well you treat TB, the only thing that matters during the final part of the story is how much of a certain stat did she manage to get. If you fail even one of those stat checks, you're going to the worst route possible. The stat requirements are absurd, and most of the time counterintuitive. For example, in order to get the writer ending, you'll need to increase creativity stat, which sounds quite reasonable. However, in the game creativity improves her art skills and requires art activities. The writing skills, on the other hand, require caring skill, which is needed for the chief ending, and not for the writer ending. Isn't that a meme? You'll fail most of the writer skill checks in the game in order to become a writer in the end. How ironic. Therefore, if you do not know which ending you want to get, you're going to fail. Figure this out before starting the game. Of course, a player may proceed through the story normally during the first playthrough to get this daddy feeling, but the ending will give you some PTSD. Now I will list all of the endings with the corresponding main stat, personality stat and specialization stat requirements in the in-game order. After you decide which ending you would like to take, start following its requirements as soon as you enter the game mode. But avoid one fatal mistake, that is trying to maximize every stat closer to the end of the game. Those stats do not affect neither TB's personality nor the gameplay process in any way, so you should focus only on the main trait and one of the secondary stats, if your ending has it. There are some activities that are locked behind a certain stat requirement, but if you haven't unlocked them by just playing the game on the earlier stages, you most likely would not need them at all. Just forget about bringing every stat to the same level, like trying to get knowledge and sensitivity as your main stats to A, then forgetting about them completely and starting to bring fitness and charisma to A2. You won't need all of them. If you ever feel like you do not have enough time to get the ending you want, just restart. There is always a restart button at the top right corner. It will reset all of your progress to the complete beginning. After advancing to every next stage, set up your goal accordingly to which main or specialization stat it requires. Do not think about which image is the cutest or which path name sounds the best, ignore what the game recommends to you, just go for the stats. Now for the time management and some crucial mechanics of each of the stages. There are a total of 4 stages of TB's growing process: the childhood, the elementary school, the middle school and the high school. The first stage lasts for 4 weeks, and this is the best time for you to farm the most crucial stat before mood and money management becomes an issue. The second stage lasts for 8 weeks, and it's this time when you unlock new activities for TB, Sunday walks around the city and new goals. And, as with the first stage, try to focus primarily on the main stats. And start increasing the level of your main activities to the maximum, as you needed them maxed out in the future. If you are going for the writer or an artist, don't forget to max out reading and art skills. The game will want you to use some advanced reading and art classes in the later stages, as one of the main blue objectives we've mentioned earlier. To get to the advanced level, just conduct basic activities 10 times, switch to the intermediate one, and repeat the process once again with 10 activities. After this, you'll get the advanced level unlocked. There are no other levels past the advanced ones. You do not need to do this in a row, in a single week, in a single month, or something like that, so do not rush it if you are low on mood and money. This, however, will save you a lot of mood, money and time in the last stage, and you sure as hell will need all of it. As the second stage, you will also unlock the personality-specific stats, which named after, you guessed it, those personalities: quiet, peppy and kind. You know, just forget about them at the moment. If you want to get a peppy girl, but somehow your activities give you only kind stats, it's completely fine. You will adjust it during the third stage by abusing the photography mechanics in the commercial district. Just continue increasing your main stats. The third stage is where you unlock the second row of activities for TB. Start slowly filling them up with the activities that gives you your desired specialization stat: creativity, musicality, caring, expression and so on. But do not forget about TB's mood. You can also slowly increase your storekeeping skills for some money if you feel like it's necessary. Spoiler, it will become necessary. During this stage, you really should start thinking about the personalities that you want to pick. Remember that abuse of the in-game mechanics that was mentioned earlier? Well, wait for another Sunday and take TB to the commercial district. Choose the photo studio and spend one action point on the photo that gives you the wanted personality type. If that's not enough for you, do not forget to check the Seaside Park's Stellar stage, and do the same there. The only thing that you need to give her a desired character is to have the most amount of points in the corresponding stat. It doesn't matter if your quiet and petty stats are at 120, if your kind is at 140. She will become kind by the end of the stage. Lastly, the fourth stage takes 20 weeks, and this is the last stage in this game. After it's done, you will get an ending. But how about the mood management? It's a lot more simple than you think. If TB has 60 or more mood, she'll get a 40% bonus to the specialization and main stats, but obviously not to the personality stats. The other criteria do not matter, as if you do not stay in her mood level at 61 point and more, you're not going to have a good ending. The only thing that you should keep in mind is to have 60 plus mood points before making the schedule for the next week. It doesn't matter if your mood drops to 50, 40 or even below after that. She will still get the additional rewards, as the initial mood was higher than 60. Sounds easy enough, huh? To maintain the mood level, you have quite a lot of options. First of all, after the third row of activities becomes available, just fill it all up with sleeping at home. And, if needed, fill 50% of the second row too. This way you will not only be able to send her to special classes every week, but will also get a decent amount of mood back. Secondly, you can go to the amusement park and restore a certain number of points, depending on your current stage. Thirdly, you can buy a special drink at the gastronomy district to restore more mood. Lastly, Holiday Resort is also a very good source of mood. By wandering around, going camping, or drawing a sketch, you have a decent chance of restoring mood on top of the basic rewards for the set activity. And do not forget about the affinity level too, as it gives you from 10 to 20 points each time you level it up. And the money management is the easiest one of all. Spend one action point on working in a gastronomy district and fill some of your schedule's spare slots with any activity that brings you money and can be upgraded to the advanced level. For me, it's the most basic work in the store that turns out to be the best option, as it gives you a lot of money, doesn't require you to have any skills, and often drops additional money as a random event. And it's really easy to level up too. If that's not enough for you, another action point can be spent on fishing. The money given is typically a bit less, but it's still a viable source of income. But what to spend money on, apart from activities that cost gold to be conducted? Firstly, on drinks from the gastronomy district that restore mood. Secondly, on items from a variety of shops that match your desired main and specialization stats on any of the stages. If you think that you need more knowledge but do not want to spend an entire action point on going to the library, buy some drinks from the gastronomy district or some books from the commercial area. The items that increase your stats do not count towards any of the ending requirements, do not change the in-game storyline, and do not serve any other real purpose apart from increasing TB stats. So do not just buy everything you can on your current week. It's always better to save money for later than to just randomly buy stuff, especially if it costs 150 gold. But what about those limited events that sometimes take place on Sundays? Just ignore them most of the time. The chance of getting to the first place relies solely on the amount of specialization stats that you currently have, where each stat represents a certain type of contest. If you're lacking in the corresponding stat while trying to win the contest, the game will just give you a bit of money, an occasional boost to main stats, and maybe even 5 points of mood, which will be absolutely useless at the cost of 2 action points. If your main stat is athleticism, do not waste your time on writing and singing contests. You won't win them. Focus on the sports ground instead. If your main stat is caring, go for the writing contests. For creativity, it will be art contests, and so on. As a stage 4, the game will require you to win the contest that is tied to your specialization at least once. It will be one of the main goals, so be ready to do so. If you really need money and have some points in contest not of your choice, you can try and enter it. It's unlikely that you'll win, but you will still make around 200 gold on most of the stages, and the competitions that were won by TB will give even more. If you do everything correctly, you will have from 5 to 9 weeks to spare, depending on how difficult it is to get the ending that you want. You can just sleep through them, check the animations of some activities that you haven't seen, or do anything that you want to finish the game after this point. If you did everything in the last week, something probably went wrong. But there is no need to worry, you still got the job done better than most of us. After getting one of the endings, your secretary form of TB will unlock the personality type that is tied to the career path chosen by her. Kind, quiet and peppy respectively. Do note, however, that if you somehow end up getting repetitive every day or shut in life, you will not unlock any new personalities, as those endings are not career specific and can ruin the lives of both kind, quiet and peppy TB. So let us really quickly summarize all of the above. I would also recommend you to focus on the main stat first and get it to the amount needed for the ending of your choice. And only then you can really focus on the specialization stat. Do note that you should still be doing the activities regarding the specialization stat. For example, doing from 1 to 2 specialization activities, from 1 to 2 working days and full main stat week is the way to go during the early weeks of the final stage. Once you hit your 3000, 4000, 1600, etc. on the main stat, stop doing the main stat activities altogether and switch all of your activities in the first row to sleeping. Now you should have enough money and mood to increase the number of working days and specialization skills learning. This may seem less effective, but the additional mood and money you gain will quickly add up and help you at the end. With that out of the way, there are still 2 more questions. First, what are TB's thoughts? The second, how can I unlock more skins? Let's start with the first one. TB thoughts are special optional missions which require you to include a conditional activity desired by her into the weekly schedule. After doing so, you will be able to claim rewards from the same page where you took this quest. Each completion will give you 1 point of mood and 10 points of affinity. Doesn't sound like much, but believe me, those affection points will increase her level and save you from having like 40 mood by the end of the week with no way of restoring it. Most of her quests are easy to do as she directly says what exactly she wants to do. Basic calligraphy, intermediate art, advanced reading, order food from the gastronomy district. However, sometimes TB will want something not so easy to understand. Basic, intermediate, advanced schedule, activity or life experience. So what's that? Life experience is every activity that gives you money. It is really glitched at the moment, so I would recommend you to always send her to work at the supermarket, as it's the most consistent way of triggering this quest completion. Schedule and activity are Tier 2 and Tier 1 activities respectively, or it's the other way around. Man, that's impossible to remember, so just include advanced, intermediate or basic activities in both the first and the second row. But the real question is whether you should complete every of her personal quests or not. The thing is, you physically can't. One day TB will ask you to include, let's say, intermediate cooking in her schedule, but you have 0 points in caring stat and 0 out of 10 experience in basic cooking. Sure, in 2 weeks you will be able to unlock the intermediate cooking, but those weeks will be spent on nothing, on +1 to mood and +10 to affinity, and you do not have that much time. Just skip the mission if you understand that it's impossible to complete it. By the end of the game you will still max out the affinity bar, and will still have around 15 quests to spare. Okay, and what about the skins? To unlock them, you have to collect moments. It's those pictures throughout stages 2, 3 and 4. The only way of obtaining them is by using the wander around option on every location that has it. That is, everything apart from the amusement park, which may give you some moments during the second stage, but this is highly unlikely. Do keep in mind that the pictures are not guaranteed to drop each time you wander around. There is only a slight chance of getting them. Also check if the set option even has the moments listed as one of the possible rewards. Who knows, you may have already gotten all of them from this particular location. Although there are a total of 70 pictures, you only have to unlock 35 to get every skin that is available at the moment. Most likely, even if you spend all of your action points on the wander around option, which you obviously shouldn't do, you won't be able to unlock 35 of them during a single playthrough. So prepare to speedrun the Tamagochi, but this time not for a certain ending, but for the pictures. And now for the most important tip of this video, which is directly tied to the previous one. You do not have to achieve 3 different endings with quiet, kind and peppy personalities to unlock them for your TB. Well, kinda. After collecting 35 memories, alternative outfits will unlock not only for the default TB, but for all of her personalities, which you can use while not having the basic personality skin, as shown in the video right now. All you have to do is to unlock 1 personality and 35 memories, and you're good to go. Use whichever TB you want. The only downside of this method, however, is the completing ability to use the basic skin of the characters that you are yet to unlock. And with that, it's time for us to wrap up. I still do think that I might not have covered everything about this game mode, but the video turned out to be very long nonetheless, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask them in the comments down below. Leave a like and subscribe if the video was helpful to you, and I'll see you in the next one.